Venezuela is about to ditch the dollar in major blow to U.S. Here's why it matters. By Darius Shahtahmasebi. September 2017 from the Anti-Media website. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said Thursday that Venezuela will be looking to free itself from the U.S. dollar next week, Reuters reports. According to the outlet, Maduro will look to use the weakest of two official foreign exchange regimes, essentially the way Venezuela will manage its currency in relation to other currencies in the foreign exchange market, along with the basket of currencies. According to Reuters, Maduro was referring to Venezuela's current official exchange rate known as DICOM, or the tipo de cambio complementario, in which the dollar can be exchanged for 3,345 bolivars. Fixed rate. At the strongest official rate, $1 buys only 10 bolivars, which may be one of the reasons why Maduro wants to opt for some of the weaker exchange rates. Venezuela is going to implement a new system of international payments and will create a basket of currencies to free us from the dollar, Maduro said in a multi-hour address to a new legislative superbody. He reportedly did not provide details of this new proposal. Maduro hinted that the South American country would look to using the yuan instead, among other currencies. If they pursue us with the dollar, we'll use the Russian ruble, the yuan, the yen, the Indian rupee, and the euro, Maduro also said. Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves, but has been undergoing a major crisis with millions of people going hungry inside the country, which has been plagued with rampant increasing inflation. In that context, the recently established economic blockade by the Trump administration only adds to the suffering of ordinary Venezuelans rather than helping their plight. According to Reuters, $1,000 worth of local currency obtained when Maduro came to power in 2013 is now worth a little over $1. A theory advanced in William Clark's book Petrodollar Warfare and largely ignored by the mainstream media essentially asserts that Washington-led interventions in the Middle East and beyond are fueled by the direct effect of the U.S. dollar that can result if oil-exporting countries opt to sell oil in alternative currencies. For example, in 2000, Iraq announced it would no longer use the U.S. dollar to sell oil on the global market. It adopted the euro instead. In February of 2003, The Guardian reported that Iraq had netted a handsome profit after making this policy change. Despite this, the U.S. invaded not long after and immediately switched the sale of oil back to the U.S. dollar. In Libya, Muammar Gaddafi was punished for a similar proposal to create a unified African currency backed by gold, which would be used to buy and sell African oil. Though it sounds like a ludicrous reason to overthrow a sovereign government and plunge the country into humanitarian crisis, Hillary Clinton's leaked emails confirmed that this was the main reason Gaddafi was overthrown. The French were essentially concerned by Gaddafi's proposal and unsurprisingly became one of the war's main contributors. It was a French Rafale jet that struck Gaddafi's motorcade, ultimately leading to his assassination. Iran has been using alternative currencies like the yuan for some time now and shares a lucrative gas field with Qatar, which may ultimately be days away from doing the same. Both countries have been vilified on the international stage, particularly under the Trump administration. Nuclear giants China and Russia have been slowly but surely abandoning the U.S. dollar as well, and the U.S. establishment has a long history of painting these two countries as hostile adversaries. Now Venezuela may ultimately join the bandwagon, all the while cozying up to Russia as well. Unsurprisingly, Venezuela and Iran were identified in William R. Clark's book as attracting particular geostrategic tensions with the United States. The CIA's admission that it intends to interfere inside Venezuela to extract a change of government, combined with Trump's recent threat of military intervention in Venezuela, and Vice President Mike Pence's warning that the U.S. will not stand by and watch Venezuela deteriorate, all start to make a lot more sense when viewed through this geopolitical lens. What initially sounded like a conspiracy theory seems to be more of a plausible reality as countries that begin dropping the U.S. dollar and opting for alternative currencies continuously and without exception end up targeted for regime change. If the U.S. steps up its involvement in Venezuela, the reasons why should be clear to those who have been paying attention. All right, folks, as I'm reading this, I have several opinions. I try to just read the article that the author wrote, but man, you look back here, Gaddafi, of course, made that African currency that was gold-backed. Boom, he was taken out. Iran, getting rid of U.S. petrodollars. That was only an agreement by the Saudis with the U.S. to only trade oil in U.S. dollars and get military help from the United States, which spread throughout all OPEC, and it just became the petrodollar, and everybody thought, well, you buy or sell oil, you have to use a dollar. And today, folks, look, it's not true. Russia won't do it. China's not doing it. Venezuela's not doing it. The only reason Iraq's doing it because we took over, which is always in question over, whether ISIS has it, but seems to bounce back and forth in world events recently. But that's questionably created by Washington as well anyway. It's just the other team's jersey. This quote here that said Mike Pence, he warned the U.S. will not stand by and watch Venezuela deteriorate. That just seems to me like an obvious outward statement of a superficial cover story veered to what he's really talking about is they're not going to watch the country deteriorate and take all that oil and start trading in another currency other than the U.S.'s. Oh. There sure is a lot of conspiracy theory that could come out of this. And look at China and Russia together now, using the Chinese yuan and gold. Russia has refused to trade any of its good in its foreign seaports in dollars, any currency other than a dollar. I mean, there is a war against the dollar worldwide, folks. That example in here that said when Maduro took over, 1,000 bolivars, which is their currency, is equal to 1 today, or 10, did it say? Yeah, 1,000 became 10. Can you imagine the dollar doing that? I think the dollar could lose 70, my calculations, 70 to 80% of its value, because dollars, they're falling this year in trade, but worldwide we're usually 80% of all trade between international countries and currencies. 80% of it all trade was traded in dollars, and only 22%, which is a lot, but only 22% of the world GDP in production came from the United States, but 80% of world trade was in dollars, which means if your denominator is actual production of goods and services at 22%, then you're about 4 times overinflated in value on the world market, the dollar, which means it could fall 75 to 80%, which would only be representing the dollar, what we actually trade after this whole warfare and backwash could come back and hit us. Anyway, reflections on the dollar war. Thank you for coming to Plain Mundane Show. Please hit like and subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I'm Alex Aquarius, and I'm out.